My husband overheard my affair, calling him a simp and loser for not knowing that the kid is his. I got pregnant by another man, and then I pinned the pregnancy on my husband without his knowledge. I had managed to hide the truth for almost 4 years, but then it was ruined with just one phone call. All the efforts I had put into keeping it went in vain. I don't know if I should start off by saying I did a bad thing, or I should just act like all that's going on is not my fault. I'm a married woman who shares a child with another man without my husband's knowledge. No, I didn't have a child before we got married. I had a child during our wedding. I got pregnant a few weeks before our wedding, and then I panicked. I just couldn't bring myself to tell him that the child wasn't his. I knew there was no way I could survive the embarrassment of getting my wedding canceled, so I had no choice. It's a really long story, but this long story has gotten complicated because the real father of the child has unknowingly exposed the truth to my husband over a phone call. Weird, right? Well, everything about my personal life and marriage has been extremely complicated and weird. Some are my fault and some I don't even know who to blame. My name is Christy, and I'm a 27-year-old receptionist. I've been a receptionist for almost 5 years now, but recently I had to quit my job after giving birth to my daughter. The name of my husband is Jerry, and he's 30 years old as of now. He's an accountant and also a businessman at the same time. My son's name is Cole, and he just turned 3 years old. I know some of you might assume I married a rich man just because he's an accountant and also a businessman. Well, I'd like to tell you guys that it's not the case at all. He's not rich or wealthy. My husband is broke, and he has been broke for the past 4 years. I said the story was complicated, right? Don't you guys think I'm serious now? Oh, Reddit, my life and the mistakes I've made don't even deserve not to win an Oscar. I know I'm a bad person who did some of the things I've done, but please cut me some slack. I'm just a woman who's trying to live a comfortable and happy life. No matter what, I have to always look out for myself at all times. The thing is, Jerry is not just broke. He has gone bankrupt, and it's been 4 freaking years since this has been going on. I'm not a gold digger, but I definitely cannot deny the fact that I like gold a lot. So I will be lying if I say that his bankruptcy doesn't bother me at all, because it definitely does. I didn't sign up to get married into debts and empty promises. In fact, Jerry wasn't like this when we started dating. Something happened that led to that, and that's what pushed me to cheat, and then boom, a baby and I had to get married to the bankrupt one. Confusing, right? That's why I'm more than happy to break this down. I don't want you guys to just see me as the gold-digging girlfriend who just wanted an opportunity to dig gold. I am definitely more than that, so I'm not afraid to prove that. So Jerry and I met at one of the hotels I used to work at before. He was there on a business trip, and we flirted at the counter. I got attracted to him because of his confidence and attractiveness. I also liked the way he was dressed smartly with the rest of his colleagues. He brought his girlfriend along with him back then, so you won't naturally expect anything to happen between us. Well, the truth is his girlfriend also worked at his place of work. She's an accountant too, so they came on the business trip together. I just wanted to clarify that since you guys might ask why he brought his girlfriend to the business trip. So fast forward to when the drama and gold digging actually started, lol. I liked Jerry immediately. I saw him, and as a struggling receptionist back then who just needed a way to earn something substantial, having a rich boyfriend didn't sound like a bad idea at all. So I went along with it and decided to shoot my shot. I started off with the casual flirting here and then, but none of it really made the kind of impression I wanted. He would flirt back once in a while, but it never got serious, plus his girlfriend was literally always around him. I did manage to get his number before he checked out of the hotel, thankfully, and that's how I started talking to him. I literally refused to just let him go like that. Even though I knew he had a girlfriend, I didn't let that stop me from getting what I wanted. He was very unresponsive for the first 2 months, but so I gave up at the end of the day. I was just too tired to continue pursuing someone that seemed not to have an interest in me at all. Well, all that ended because some months later he messaged me first and asked me out to have coffee. It felt very weird for someone who had never given me attention to suddenly want that kind of contact with me, but I liked him, so I gave in. I eventually discovered that he had broken up with his girlfriend, and that was why he started contacting me. I didn't have a problem with that because at the end of the day, I knew that I had been chasing him too. We talked for a few weeks before we hooked up and started dating. I couldn't believe that I finally had the rich boyfriend I always wanted to have, so it was actually a very sweet feeling for me. Never in a million years would I have actually thought that the sweet boyfriend I imagined hanging would turn out to be broke. If he had gotten broke earlier, then I would have known not to get married to him at all. But unfortunately for me, things didn't go so smoothly. Jerry took a loan for a project at his office and promised to use the money to develop a system that would benefit the company. At first, his company refused because the money he was asking to loan was very big, and they didn't want to risk that kind of money. but he was able to convince them and promise them that he would not disappoint at all. So his company ended up loaning him the money, and that's how Jerry crashed everything.
Yeah.
He did tell me about his plan to start up the business, but I wasn't really interested in it. I know nothing about accounting, finances, and his dream plan, so I didn't interject more, but with the amount of money he told me he was looking for, I knew it couldn't be good. The thing is that he actually lied to me. He loaned far more than he told me he was going to loan. He loaned 10 times the amount. Yes, it's that bad, and I was kept in the dark. He got scammed along the way because the people he made plans with were irresponsible people, and they ended up trusting the wrong sets of people. That's how his money ended up finishing just like that. Everything he had fought so hard to get just went down the drain, and he was left in massive debt. When I tell you guys he was left in massive debt, I mean real big debt. It's not just the kind of ordinary debt, it's the kind of debt that screams broke. He owes his company, guarantor, and even his bank. He refused to tell me about it for some reason till weeks later when I found out myself. Our wedding day had already been fixed before he got scammed, and so we had been preparing for our wedding. A lot of his savings was also spent on the wedding preparation, and we did a lot of outrageous stuff during that time because we thought we were going to end up rich overnight. So the fact that mine happened and we had spent much was another debt on its own. Not even Andrew's 4 years' salary so far was able to clear off everything. He has been able to clear up half of the debt, but even that is not a lot compared to 4 years ago. That means before he gets absolutely free, we're talking another 4 years. It's taking this long because his company was gracious enough to allow him to have half of his salary for his personal use, provided that he paid everything by working for 8 years for them. They didn't just secure their money, they secured Andrew as their employee, which means he cannot just wake up and leave even if he finds a better job. Well, that's if the job can pay him the money at once so he can pay back his company. When I found out about this, I was so angry and confused that I decided to have a wild night out. At that time, I just needed a distraction, and the realization that I was getting married to someone in debt was just a heavy weight for me. I wanted to think, but thinking seemed so tasking back then, so I decided to go to a party and have a wild night out. It was at that party that I discovered just how crazy things got for me. I met this guy named Nathan that was just too cool and calm. He seemed like he had a lot of money, and he was also very flirty. We started flirting, and then we had a one-night stand. We met up days after that, and he only used protection just twice. I figured he was clean since he was very hygienic, plus he eventually showed me his test reports. Yes, I wasn't completely stupid. I kept telling him I wasn't comfortable going raw with anyone, so the proof helped. I just thought I was having a nice time before accepting the bad gate that had been waiting for me. Never in a million years did I think that bad fate would lead to something as stupid as what happened to me. I love my son a lot, but I never planned to have him in the way that he came. It was too sudden and weird for me. I was still naive and trying to navigate my life, so having a kid with another man that was not my husband destabilized me a lot. I didn't want to just call the wedding off and not marry Jerry because I knew how much he spent. When I think that makes me sound like a saint, it's still a big lie because I also didn't want to embarrass myself by canceling a wedding I had planned and announced perfectly. I knew I had a lot to lose more than I had to gain, so I just had to find a way to balance everything out. I freaked out and told Nathan about the pregnancy. He was surprised, but at the same time, he told me it wasn't totally a bad idea. He just wasn't ready for marriage, and I wasn't ready to be anyone's baby mama. I wanted a stable life for myself and my child, so I made the decision to marry Jerry anyway. Nathan didn't like the idea, but I told him it was either that or he married me. Of course, he just did not want to marry me because according to him, he was still trying to get his life together. Nathan has a lot of money, so that excuse didn't sit right with me, but I pretended like it made sense. I did like the idea of him giving me secret child support, taking me out on dates, and just having that gin life with him. I wanted to keep him close as the father of my child because I was aware of Jerry's financial problems and how he was basically bankrupt at that particular point in time. So that's how I ended up getting married to Jerry barely 1 week after finding out I was pregnant. I refused to use protection while I was with Jerry from the beginning of our marriage. I didn't want him to have a doubt. I'm his mind about the baby. I had managed to get married to him with the baby to avoid humiliation, so I had to watch my back. I didn't want more embarrassment coming my way, so I tried my possible best to stop any form of confusion on his part. So just like that, I was able to freely let him know I was pregnant, and it was his. Of course, we were married, so he didn't see the need to double-check or ask for the week or anything. He knew we had been together raw, and there was no other thing going on, so I was absolutely sure that he knew what was going on. So just like that, I was able to pin the marriage on him. I was also very confident that even if he had doubts, he wouldn't have anything to say because we had been sleeping together even before the wedding. Just like that, I was playing with two guys at once. I won't exactly say I was playing two of them, since Nathan was like the hardest nut to crack. He was always just on his own and only contacted me when it was time for him to send me money. I knew that his main reason was because he was spooked out by the idea of being a father to a child that would legally belong to another man. But I always told him all he needed to do was actually ask for my hand in marriage, and that would be the end of my marriage to Jerry. Even though I did all I did just so I could save myself a lot of humiliation, I still didn't have the level of peace of mind that I had hoped to have. I was always on guard and totally scared of Jerry finding out the truth. It was just me personally not liking the fact that I couldn't just relax and have a peaceful pregnancy without reassuring two men at once that I was doing fine and there was no need to worry. At some point, the truth almost got out. It scared me so much that it took a lot for me not to let out the truth by myself. I had an altercation with someone at my workplace, and the argument got so heated that I was shouting and stressing myself. I hadn't eaten all through that day because I was stressed. Jerry's mother had come visiting, and her presence had been making it difficult for me to contact Nathan and keep him posted about the things he usually asked for. That literally meant that I had to keep Nathan in the dark and ghost him. I wasn't replying to his texts or calling him back because Jerry's mother was just always with me all the time. She claimed to want the best for me and my baby, and she felt like her presence was going to do that well. That stressed me a lot because I had to deal with Nathan, and I promised to keep him posted as often as possible. But as a result of Jerry's mother's presence, it became increasingly difficult to even try reaching out to him. That went on for 2 weeks, and I got worried because that meant Nathan was angry, and I knew Nathan as a man that didn't like to be ghosted. But I had no choice, and there was nothing I could do, so I just had to go with the flow. So the realization of that had been making me worried because I didn't want Nathan to suddenly show up just like that at the house and cause a scene. That leads me to the next point, guys. Like I said, I was stressing and barely eating because Jerry's mother was frustrating me. That's how it ended up leaving me so stressed, and the fact that I had an argument with someone at work during the same time got me so weak that I got dizzy at work. My colleagues noticed that, and they quickly called Jerry. Before I got dizzy at work, my antenatal reports already told me I had high blood pressure and needed to avoid stress if I wanted to have a safe pregnancy. I didn't think it would actually be something to worry about until I ended up in the hospital and got told to quit my job in order to avoid any form of stress. It hurt me a lot because that meant I couldn't sneak out to meet Nathan anymore. That stressed me more, coupled with the fact that Jerry's mother, who was at home watching the house while I was hospitalized, called me to ask if I knew of any Nathan that came to look for me at the house. Yes, you read that right, guys. Nathan took matters into his own hands and ended up showing up at the house in search of me just like I feared he would. It was hard for me at that point, and I was very scared. Many thoughts ran through my mind, and the fact that I knew I was doing something bad was even what hurt me the most. I knew I just had to look for a way out of it. Jerry's mother was extremely harsh when she asked me the questions, and I was left with nothing to say. She's normally an extremely inquisitive person, especially when it comes to me. For some reason, she feels she has the right to intrude in my life in one way or another. I had to lie and say that Nathan was the brother of my best friend, even though I didn't have a best friend at that time. This woman refused to give me any breathing space, and that's how I noticed that she was suspecting something. In some way, I feel she has something to do with everything that's going on right now. She has a hand in it, and there's nothing anyone can say to stop me. Why did she have to be a hug in my life? She threatened to tell her son about it if I didn't prove that he was just a friend's brother. I almost told Jerry the truth myself because I just couldn't deal with his mother and the way she was always on my case. After that period, I had to be extra careful in managing my two relationships and making sure none of them got in the way of the other. I also warned Nathan not to show up at the house like he had done before, and he agreed. As for Jerry, none of my hopes worked because he still remained bankrupt, and we were living off half of his salary. It wasn't the life I envisioned for myself, especially for the fact that I was pregnant with a child. Even though it was hard for me, I had to learn to live with it because I had no choice either way. Nathan still sent me money, but almost every single day of my life, I craved to be married to him instead of Jerry. I just felt like I was missing out on a lot by staying married to Jerry, but he was the only one that was ready to stay married to me without knowing the truth. So I gave birth to my son months later, and it was a big relief for me. Nathan started sending a lot of money after the birth of our son, but it annoyed me that I couldn't spend the money as much as I wanted. Why? Because I didn't want to raise Jerry's suspicions. He knew that we were barely managing to survive, so I knew he would suspect me if he saw me living over the budget. So I had money, but I had to spend it secretly. It also didn't help that after the birth of Cole, his mother decided to come back and stay with us again. I was convinced that his mother just liked to make my life a living hell. I absolutely hated it any time she was around because it automatically meant that she was just going to make life difficult for me. Her presence made me that angry, trust me, but I had no choice than to live with it. I had to settle for less just like I did when I got married to her bankrupt son. It became a trend in my life, I guess. That's what I got for making the same mistake twice. The first one was saying yes to marry him, and the second one was actually going through with it. I know you might be wondering why Jerry isn't really involved in most of these issues. That's because he spent most of his time working extra hard so he could have some little extra money while he was still trying to pay off his debt. That's why he was so busy that he didn't notice a lot of things. Well, that's until recently, of course, because the once nonchalant Jerry is now a very angry man who wants nothing but to make my life a living hell. The truth is out now, and the truth has cost me so much. The truth I struggled so much to keep hidden is now out, and it is breaking all the hard work I suffered to put in place. Everything I concealed is now out in the open for everyone to see. I knew that the truth would cost me quite much, but I didn't expect the truth to make Jerry this angry. He has forgotten the fact that I stood by him through all those years. In fact, he doesn't even care about everything that I did. I married him despite knowing that he had gone bankrupt. Not a lot of women would have done what I did, so I see no reason why he would feel like getting married to me was a mistake. If we're even being honest, he's the one who's lucky to be married to me. Sure, I shouldn't have made him believe my son was his, but he doesn't have to act like he's the best man in the world. He made mistakes too, and he put my life in jeopardy. My future was unknown when I got married to him, but I still stayed. Now, Jerry has changed so much since that phone call, and he had the audacity to do something very outrageous. What's worse, I'm hearing of his plans to divorce me? Why? What's ever so serious? Yes, I made a mistake. One little mistake, but how the hell does that give him a right to divorce him? Does he think he's the greatest husband in the world? I can't even believe he can be this cruel. He's not all that, and he has been inefficient in his matrimonial duties too. I'm not the only one that deserves all the blame in this case. Now that I think about it, I'm actually happy that I was at least able to keep this secret for this long. There were many instances where the truth would have just gotten out, like my son's first birthday. Okay, so after our son had turned 1, his features had started to show more visibly. He doesn't look much like me. He's more of Nathan's carbon copy, and this detail almost cost me. Jerry's mother started asking why my son didn't look like me or her father. I know her well enough to know that she had no clue or doubts about the child's paternity. She just wanted to taunt me like she usually did, but she had no clue that by taunting me, she was almost getting close to the truth. So I decided to play dumb and act like it was just the normal case of children taking the recessive genes of their parents. She's above middle age, so she couldn't remember that Nathan, who had been at the house, looked like my son. Cole was also too young to really pinpoint his looks back then. I kept on working on eggshells and juggling the relationships until my son turned 2. I didn't try for another baby because I didn't want to have a child with different fathers. I still had the hold that Nathan was going to marry me, so I wanted to wait so I could have all my children with him. I do value marriage, and that's why I lived with Jerry for this long. The thought of being an unmarried single mother is my biggest fear, so almost everything I've done until now is to stop myself from ending up like that. Of course, there are people who can wing it and do it well, but I know I'm not that kind of woman. Only do I hate the idea of being independent and working to sustain myself alone. I hate the stigma that could possibly come from it, especially when there would be evidence that I cheated on my husband just a few days before our wedding. I have too much pride to have my name dragged in the mud like that. So after Cole's second birthday, Nathan suddenly decided to appear fully into my life. Before, he just played the role of a financial aid and someone to just really talk to and tell some secret things. We never did anything physical apart from hugging. We distanced because, to be quite honest, I was angry that he was taking a long time to ask for my hand in marriage. For him, I think he was just trying to avoid another baby, I guess. But all that stopped all of a sudden, and our sudden closeness is what broke all the work we put into not trying to complicate things. He started asking me out on dates, and we started hooking up. At first, I thought it could just be platonic, but who was I kidding? Nathan is charming and rich. He hates responsibilities, and that's why he refused to marry me. Even though that really hurt me, I was still very okay with being his girlfriend. Yes, he had added me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes to that. Please don't blame me for saying yes, because I had no other choice than to say yes. He was the only stable financial source I had. He is also the father of my son, whether I like it or not, and I didn't want there to be a distance between us. Don't get it twisted, please. I'm not trying to say I love Nathan. I don't love him at all. I won't say I like him romantically either. I just like the stability and peace he brings. I like our nights together, but I've told myself that falling in love is not for me. I'm now focused on using my head instead of my heart, because doing otherwise has taught me several lessons that just break my heart. There are a lot of things that love has taught me, so I told myself that living is not for me. I just want to be rich enough to make money and do my thing. Well, no, if that seemed to be possible since I'm having crisis in both my relationships. On one hand, my affair partner still finds committing difficult, and on the other hand, my husband is trying to end our marriage by all means. Do you see why love is overrated? Imagine me going through all of this just because I thought it would be a good idea to fall in love for the first time. So let me get back to what I was telling you guys. Nathan and I sparked the flame in our relationship again, and we became an item. I think it's mostly called an affair partner for people already committed, right? So he became my affair partner, and we hooked up a lot. I also took Cole to see him once in a while. That's mostly when Jerry's mother decides not to sleep in the house or when Jerry is too busy to sleep at home. This continued for a very long time, and I enjoyed the luxury that Nathan provided. He was also very nice to me all through everything, and he seemed to be very nice and caring. I always loved everything he did for me, and I was too stupid to notice that he was still kept ready to commit to me. Well, the revelation of the truth is now all the proof I need because I now know that he has zero interest in me. He is light like me as an affair partner, but he doesn't really like me as a wife, or rather he doesn't see himself getting married to me. He just likes the fact that I go back home to my real husband and don't invade his slave all the time. Now I don't even have a real husband to go back to. The real husband I have is done with me, and all he wants is to divorce me so he can get rid of the false responsibilities I have brought on him. That's how he described our son. Even though Cole is not his biological son, he still trained him up till now. Why can't he just accept Cole as his son? What is so hard in that, and why is he being dramatic? It's not like he even did anything financially first for a Cole. He's just been a platonic dad when it comes to finances. He just bonds with Cole a lot and has father and son moments. He doesn't buy anything outrageously expensive, so why is he acting like this is a big deal? Okay, so Cole turned 3 recently. It was just 2 weeks ago. Nathan had been out of town for business, and he didn't have time to properly wish Cole for his 3rd birthday. If you're wondering if Cole asks, sometimes almost slips up by calling Nathan's name in front of Jerry, he has definitely done it several times, but thankfully, I bake it on the cartoon he watches. Call me whatever, but I'm just a mother trying to protect her child and make him happy. So going forward, I'll tell you what happened when Nathan finally decided to call 3 days ago. He told me he wanted to wish Cole a happy birthday and also wanted to speak to me about something very important. He was still on his business trip by the time he called, and I had been dressing Cole up, so I decided to just put the call on speaker rather than asking him to call another time. I needed free time to be able to dress Cole up, and I also wanted to listen to Nathan, so it was better to put the call on speaker. After wishing Cole happy birthday, Nathan decided to tell me about his plans to take me and Nate for a 1-month vacation with him. He wanted us to come join him on his trip because he wanted to turn the business trip into a vacation whenever he was done with his work. I told him I had to get at the house to take care of the house, and it would also be weird for me to just disappear after 1 month. I was giving him hints that our interactions were still limited because I was someone's wife, and if he wanted to change that, all he needed to do was get married to me. Nathan got pissed off and told me that if I didn't want to go on the trip, I should just let him come take Cole. He said he needed to be with his son. I got frustrated and reminded him that I was a married woman with a son, and I couldn't just tell my husband I sent off his son with a stranger for 1 month. I tried to make him understand that Jerry would not like the idea of me giving Cole off to him for 1 month, even though he didn't know the truth. Just like that, Nathan became very angry, and it was like all hell he lost. He started lecturing me about how he didn't like the idea of me keeping him from his son. He also used abusive terms for Jerry, and said Jerry was acting too protective about a dom that wasn't even his. He spoke about how he was fired of sharing his son with someone else, and how he hated Jerry's relationship with Cole. I'm the middle of that conversation. Jerry walked in, stood behind me, and listened to everything quietly. He had gone to use the bathroom downstairs because I had been giving Cole a bath in the bathroom in our room. I didn't expect him to get done so fast because he usually didn't a lot of time bathing, but he had forgotten his towel and had come to pick it up. That's how he worked on the conversation. Jerry didn't wait for Nathan to end the call before he cursed him out and broke my phone. Like an angry beast, he started throwing all of my things out of my wardrobe. Just like that, he tried to send me out, but I refused to go. He pushed me twice till I sprained my ankle, but I still refused to go because I knew he couldn't put his hands on a woman. He left the house angrily, but Kate came back the next day to let me know he already filed for a divorce. He also threw my things out even though it was raining. I'm stuck here without clothes and I'm hungry because he threw all the food out. If I step out of this house, I know he will lock me out. I need help, guys. Please help me. Update. I told you guys Nathan is a fool, right? He really is. He has refused to marry me but wants me to continue dating him. I refused, so he told me I could do whatever I wanted, but he wanted joint custody of our son after my divorce. Yes, I got divorced. Jerry wasn't playing when he said he wanted to divorce me. He knew what I feared the most was being a divorced single mother, so he made me one after destroying my properties. He also made sure word got out and I was humiliated and left penniless. He has withdrawn all paternal rights and he has left me broke. Nathan has signed the paternity papers, but just because he wants to spite me for refusing to get his plaything again, he no longer sends money to me. He just guys Cole whatever he wants and pays for things himself. I'm jobless with no money on me, so I'm left broke. My biggest fears did come through. Even though I tried to use deceit to hide them, karma didn't play. Now I'm divorced and also a single mother. I'm also independent and responsible for my own finances. My life really did hit rock bottom.